Anyone talking about Giannis' future and thinking he is going to leave Milwaukee, I think you're wasting your oxygen. Giannis is not leaving the Bucks. Here's what you got to remember. Giannis is not like 90% of today's NBA players. Giannis is loyal. Giannis is someone who is not really friends with a lot of NBA players. He's been on the record before of disliking super teams, not running to join up with great players and win a championship. He has been steadfast in saying repeatedly he wanted to stay in Milwaukee and win a championship. Obviously, he did that. I don't think he's going to go back on his word now that he won one and then try to leave Milwaukee and go to Miami or LA or the Knicks. I think to me, Giannis is someone who wants to stay where he is and finish his career as a Buck. He's not like LeBron James, who leaves at kind of the first sign of trouble. He's not Kevin Durant, who switches teams depending on which way the wind is blowing that day. Giannis is different. And that's why I think when we're talking about Giannis' future and him possibly leaving, now after they got bounced in the first round by the Heat, and now that Mike Budenholzer is fired, I think you're wasting your time. Because Giannis is not like most other NBA players. Most other NBA players, yes. It's an absolute discussion, and absolutely more likely than not, they are leaving. But Giannis, just like Dame, they're different. I think this failure, and that's what this past season was for the Bucks, a failure. I think this failure, if anything, helps Giannis dig his heels in, become more stubborn, and say, I'm not leaving. I think he's going to want to stay. This motivates him to try to get back to the finals, win another championship, and prove everybody wrong. I don't think now he's going to want to leave and go chase a ring somewhere else. But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in, where people look at past comments or people take Giannis at his word. Because earlier today, fans in LA, fans in New York, fans in Miami, fans all over the NBA landscape were sent into a tizzy because of what Brian Windhorst, who is a very well-respected, I think trusted NBA insider. That's not a guy who succumbs to hyperbole, who just throws that information almost as a guess more than as a fact. He is very calculated, very measured with what he says. And so a lot of people had their ears perk up when he was on Get Up earlier on Friday, and he had this little nugget to say when it comes to Giannis' future and the future of the Bucks.
While we were up here arguing about who the MVP was going to be or whether the Lakers were going to make the playoffs, one of the most important things in the NBA happened when the owner of the Bucks, Mark Lazary, sold in the middle of the season.
So why did he do it?
Because of the thundercloud that is on the horizon. Giannis has a contract extension this offseason. Now, he's under contract for 2 more years. If he doesn't sign that extension, orange light, we got problems. They've got 2 free agents in their 30s, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, with the repeater tax starting for them next year, and a bunch of new rules, which CJ knows better than anybody because the man negotiated the contract. The rules are set up to penalize teams that are high salary teams, hamstringing them, and they have to decide on a coach and whether to pay 2 30-year-olds, whether or not, and they have to, and Giannis can't decide on his extension until September. It's the chicken and egg theory. The Bucks are in a quagmire, so we have the first move with the firing of Budenholzer.
So Wendy is not saying, right, that Giannis is going to leave. All he did was outline the questionable future right now that the Bucks are facing. They have salary cap issues, absolutely. Obviously, they have to find a new head coach. They have new ownership change as well. But Wendy's premise, I think, is based upon how the normal NBA player would act and think. And the normal NBA player would see that situation. Ownership change, head coach change, 2 important players in Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton who are aging, who in the case of Chris Middleton is banged up and now has had 2 years in a row where injuries have impacted his play. There's a lot of roster questions, coaching questions, ownership questions. For most players, that would drive them towards not signing the extension that's coming in the fall and opting to try to be traded somewhere else. Not Giannis. I think, to me, Giannis is different. I don't think he's going to leave. This is a guy who, again, I think will see things out through good times and in bad. Remember, go back a few years ago in the bubble. Because if Giannis wanted to leave, if Giannis was to leave, I think the perfect time for him would have been after 2020. When in the bubble, the Bucks were upset by the Heat, in embarrassing fashion, gentleman's sweep. And after that, there's a lot of questions about if the Bucks could win a title with Giannis. If Giannis even himself could be trusted to be the number one on a championship team. There was a lot of doubts, a lot of questions circling around Milwaukee and their ability to win a championship. And you know what Giannis did? Instead of running away, instead of saying, no, you're right, I can't win here, I'm going to go somewhere else. Instead of blaming others, if I got to get out of here, Milwaukee's dragging me down, I got to go somewhere where I can have my play lifted up, he doubled down. He signed an extension in Milwaukee. He stayed there. And as we know, the next year, won a championship. Now those doubts are circling again. Not about Giannis and his ability to win a championship, but about his future. Will Giannis stay? Should he stay? I think he will. Giannis has told us who he is before. And that is a man who does not run when times get tough. He stands there, digs his heels in, and fights. I don't think that's going to change. I think, frankly, it's a big waste of time for fans getting their expectations up and dreaming, envisioning a day where Giannis in a year, 2 years from now, is on their team. Save your daydreaming, save your oxygen. Giannis is not leaving the Bucks.